the lights are dim, so I think that's an indication that we need to get started with the program. It's 6 o'clock. I appreciate all of you being here. I'm Larry Kitchens, a member of the Hurst City Council. In my daytime job, I'm Director of Instructional Technology at TCU. And today we have had the privilege of hosting a Hurst Cybersecurity Summit for a lot of IT professionals from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, all the way from the east side of Dallas to Mineral Wells and Weatherford and places all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, dealing with the threat of cybersecurity. And this is a topic, just by your presence, I think we realize that it is an important topic. It's one that is on our minds. It doesn't take much for us to hear about the problems coming up. Before we get into the program, a couple of logistics. If you have a cell phone, we would like for you to turn that off so that we don't interrupt the speakers. If you need to take a restroom break, it'd be through these double doors here at the back. We still have refreshments over there. You're welcome to get up and make use of that. I'd like to thank the Hurst City Council to allowing us to do this. And I'd like to introduce the members of the City Council that are present here tonight. Mayor Richard Ward is not here. He recently had major surgery. He's recuperating at home and is not allowed to get out of the house. He's doing great, but we hope he's going to be back on his feet probably sometime next week. Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Welton, if you'd stand, please. Councilperson Anna Holzer. And Councilmember Bill McClendon. Henry Wilson was not feeling well, and we're glad that he's not here if he's not feeling very good. And David Bowie had a board meeting with another group tonight. He was here all day today, but was not able to be with us tonight. At this time, I'm going to ask Nancy to come forward and bring greetings from the city.
It's a pleasure to welcome you here this evening. As you may or may not know, October is National Cyber Security Awareness Month. And Larry's been so excited about putting this on, it's gotten us all in the mood too. And after you hear what you hear tonight, I think you'll all be excited about it too. Thank you.
There's some other people that I'd like to recognize, because it's not something that I obviously did by myself. It was a team of people, and I'd like just to recognize them because they have put in a tremendous amount of time. We've been planning this conference. Someone said it was 2 years ago. We tried a year ago, and the federal government shut down. The problem is most of our speakers were from the federal government, and so they had a no travel policy, so we had to cancel our program. But we have a lot of city staff that work with us, and I don't know that they're all here, but I'd like to call their name. Alan Rieger, City Manager; Clay Carruthers, Assistant City Manager of Finance; Sunny Patel, Director of Information Technology; Ashley Johnson, Managing Director of Marketing and Communications. I saw her somewhere earlier. Kara Crane, Marketing Multimedia Specialist; Shelley Klein, Communications Specialist; Becky Eden, Administrative Assistant; and Charlton Northington, General Manager for this great conference center; and Chris Connolly and Christine Sauce, the both of working with this program and put it together. So give them a round of applause. They really worked hard. I'd also like to recognize one other individual that flew all the way in from Washington, D.C., because we've been working with her and another individual, and I'm going to read, this has to be a government agency. Listen to the title: Homeland Security Department supporting the state, local, tribal, and territorial cybersecurity engagement program, Office of Cybersecurity and Communications. That has to be a federal government. But Barbara Simmons is here, if you would stand, Barbara. As Nancy mentioned, October is Cyber Security Awareness Month, and this seemed most appropriate that we do something that would be providing some type of information to our citizens. As I said, today we've had a little over 100 people that came in from across the Dallas-Fort Worth area to learn what they could do from an IT management, from a community standpoint, because quite frankly, we have a lot of drills on what we need to do when we have a natural disaster. We have interlocal agreements, and our fire departments know how to work with other fire departments, police departments, public works, and all of that. The thing is, if we were to have a cyber security attack, it's going to maybe affect us as much or more than a natural disaster. The point is not if we are going to have a cyber security attack, but it's more of when is it going to occur. So what do we do to be prepared, and what do we do to be more aware of this? If we look at today's newspapers, and I just picked this one up, it talks about hack attacks spreading fast, and it talks about J.P. Morgan, TJ Maxx, Target, Home Depot. You've been seeing all of the news of things that have been happening like this. If J.P. Morgan, with all of their resources, can't stop a hacking attack, how are we then as citizens in our home computers going to be able to stop this? There are ways, and what we hope the program will do tonight is not only raise your awareness, but what you can do to prepare yourself for that, and what do you do after the attack occurs. We have seen well, in a recent report I came across the 10 safest countries that were against cyber attacks. The United States was ranked 6th. We weren't first. We were ranked 6th, just above Slovenia. Interestingly enough, the 10 riskiest countries were Indonesia, India, China, and Malaysia. Interestingly enough, on that note, a lot of our call centers that when you call for help are located in some of those countries. So we are at a point where there are some weak spots that we need to deal with. There's a utility company that reports that as they try to manage the water supply for their customers, they receive over 10,000 cyber attacks per month. Now, to stop and think what happens if someone were to get into our utility system, be able to shut off power, water, gas, electricity, whatever, what it would do to our community. Several months ago, as chair of the National League of Cities Information Technology and Communications Policy Committee, I sat in and was able to chair a presentation on cybersecurity. And I began to wonder, as citizens of Hurst, are we really aware of, are we really prepared for a cyber security attack? And so we began to work on this, and so for the past 10 to 12 months, we've been pulling together resources that we wanted to share with you, and some ideas and some things that we think will be of benefit to you. Basically trying to answer 3 questions. How prepared are we? How would we respond? And how resilient would we be in face of these attacks? So what I'm hoping to do tonight is that we can get into the program, and we can provide you with some resources and some ideas. And maybe you won't be as paranoid as I am, but when I look at what can go on, and when I hand my phone to my 8-year-old granddaughter and I see that she can get into my phone without any instructions and add 5 games without me knowing it, you stop and think what a criminal who is looking to get into our computers. How many of you have computers at home that's connected to the internet? Great, most of you do. How many of you have credit cards? So I began to figure out what questions to ask, and finally someone suggested we just ask how many people have been born. Because you are susceptible to cyber crime, because your information is stored somewhere, and someone could get that information. And so it is a critical question that we need to try to address tonight. Our first presenter, I want to go ahead and get into the program. We will have time for question and answers later on. Our first presenter is Greg White, and he's going to be talking about the culture of cybersecurity. Dr. White has been involved in computer and network security since 1986. He spent 30 years with Air Force and Air Force Reserves, and I said today, thank you, sir, for your service. He attained his PhD in computer science from Texas A&M in 1995, conducting research in the area of computer network intrusion detection, and he continues to conduct research in this area today. He currently serves as the director of the Center for Infrastructure Assurance and Security and is associate professor of computer science at the University of Texas at San Antonio. Dr. White has written numerous articles, conference papers on computer security. He's also co-authored 5 textbooks and written chapters on 2 others. His current research interests include an examination of organizational issues affecting computer security, high-speed intrusion detection, infrastructure protection, community cyber incident response, and the development of a community cybersecurity maturity model, which serves as a guide for states and communities deserving to build their own viable and sustainable cybersecurity programs. One of the things that came out of our presentation today is that I think we are going to be looking at trying to develop a community awareness with the IT folks and the public safety folks and the other agencies that make up our city to try to create a community of support for one another so that we would be better prepared to meet the needs when the cyber attack would occur. Dr. Wright, if you would come forward, hear from you. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, as they're getting the slides pulled up there that I have, I wanted to, first of all, thank you folks for the opportunity to be here. I'm honored to be here. I appreciated the opportunity earlier to speak to the folks who are from the employees, for example, in the City of Hurst. I have the opportunity tonight to be the lead-off speaker. We have 2 really great speakers that will be following up. My job is basically, I guess, to warm up the audience, so I'm trying to get you folks prepared for the 2 folks that will be following. What I want to talk about here tonight is this concept of a culture of cybersecurity. And what do we mean by that? Glad you asked. Basically, just to give a real quick intro and a discussion to introduce this. Hello? Okay, real close, I guess is what we're going to have to do here. Okay, sorry. Just introduce the topic here. What we're going to talk about here. There are 2 different broad categories. This is not the definitive here, but there are 2 broad categories that you could lump cybersecurity attacks into. You have what we refer to as targets of opportunity, and we have situations, attacks where we're targeting a specific organization. Targets of opportunity means that there's some new vulnerability, there's some new susceptibility, there's some new exploit that's out there, and individuals are using that to just try to find some computer out there. It doesn't matter who it is that owns that, but some computer that is out there that has not been patched and is susceptible to whatever that vulnerability is. These are the type of things that we read about in the paper oftentimes, about some new virus, some new worm, you know, something that's come out. We all have to be aware of it and to go patch our systems. The other one are the targets or attacks where we are targeting a specific organization. For example, this City of Hurst, which begs the question is, well, do cities, do communities get targeted, or is it just things like, you know, TJ Maxx and Dairy Queen and some of those entities? Now, we have to be worried about those, obviously, because those all impact us. If we've used our credit cards at any one of those establishments, you know, we're concerned when they get have a data breach. But we also need to be concerned about this other community kind of thing. And we're seeing a growing number of attacks on cities or communities. We got an example up here, for example, of an issue. This wasn't an attack specifically, excuse me, against the city of Houston, but it was one that it was a security event that impacted it. What they had was a piece of malware, a virus that exploited a vulnerability which was not a new one, but it was one that the city had not patched. This one portion of the city had not patched, the court systems in the city of Houston. Basically what happened, it shut down the court systems. And so it had all sorts, you can see some of the situations, individuals who are trying to pay their fines, can't pay their fines. But it got so bad that they basically told the law enforcement types that, look, if it's a misdemeanor, a nonviolent misdemeanor, let them go, because we can't process them. So it impacted the community. That's just one example here. Here's another. You may have all heard of this group called Anonymous. They've been in the news every once in a while. A few years ago, they had a Hack Orlando Day, where they were targeting the city of Orlando. They were doing that because the city of Orlando had some ordinances that dealt with feeding individuals, groups feeding other groups or something like that. And specifically what was happening was they had some churches and other organizations like that were trying to feed the homeless. Well, there were city ordinances that governed how you're supposed to do that, and it wasn't that the city of Orlando was against feeding the homeless. They just wanted it to be done correctly. You got to follow the ordinances. Well, this, hit the news, and then some folks in Anonymous said, well, that's horrible. The city of Orlando hates homeless people, and so they declared a Hack Orlando Day to attack the city because of that. So there's another example. Something going on. Here's an interesting one. States are vulnerable too. You may have heard about this a few years ago, 2012, data breach in the state of South Carolina. Lost a whole bunch of individuals' accounts and social security numbers and all sorts of cool stuff like that. Cost the state about $25 million. And what we have in red here is one of the things I wanted to highlight. If you notice what it says there, it talks about the result, it basically was a result of an employee who was clicking on something they weren't supposed to be clicking on. A phishing email that they was phishing being, someone's trying to send you, and you've all received these things in your email, where someone's trying to get you to click on something or to provide your password and user ID. They're trying to get some information like that or get you to do something. Because an employee wasn't paying attention, wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing, they clicked, and suddenly the state of South Carolina is $25 million, in debt here as they try to fix things. Here's the city of Detroit. So they had a problem. In this case, they had this one, you notice this one in 2012 for the state of South Carolina. This one's more recent. This was just occurred, just a little over a month ago to the city of Detroit, where they were targeted. They lost some information. They earlier in the year had also had another attack. So city of Detroit had a couple, things happen to them this year. And if you notice once again in red here, it was due to there we go again, malware through email. Someone doing something that they weren't supposed to. They received mail at their place of employment, the city of Detroit in this case, and they did something that they weren't supposed to. Oops, and it caused problems. So states and communities need to be aware of this, and the fact that Hurst and had so many city employees here today that were concerned about that. They were here, they're trying to learn what they can do to help to try to protect the city, but it is not just their responsibility. If we just leave it up to those individuals, we're going to be in trouble. This needs to be a community effort. There needs to be what I'd like to refer to, and more people, and I'm not the only one, but it refers to as a culture of security. We all have to be worried about cybersecurity. We all have a certain responsibility in that regard. What we're trying to do is to take a look at things like this, so that me as cybersecurity may not be my primary responsibility, but I need to know something about cybersecurity. So if something comes along that's a cybersecurity related event, I know enough to be able to spot it. We've done some security exercises around the state of Texas, actually around the nation. And this was one from a security exercise that we did for Tyler. It was actually a state exercise along with exercises in 3 communities. But here's one of the events. We said, okay, here, what would happen if you had a law enforcement agency type individual, a policeman, that pulled someone over because they were looping around the block over and over and over and over and over again, driving around the block, and it looks doing something suspicious. So the police officer pulls them over to see, hey, are you lost? Can I help you? Not doing anything, just checking things out because something's suspicious. And the police officer sees this funny-looking antenna and a bunch of computer equipment inside there. Does the police officer know what that might be? And B, do they do anything about it if they do? Now, in this case, there's a little bit of a hint. We say there's a possible ward driving being nothing more than a situation where someone's going around and trying to find open wireless connections that they might be able to gain access to. Now, This was a couple, you take a look at the time frame, this was back in 2006 that we did this. Today it would be a lot harder to spot that kind of thing, because for me to do war driving, I don't need the funny little antenna, I don't need the computer anymore. All I need is that, because I can get war drivers on that machine right there. So it's a little bit harder to spot, but that's beside the point. The point was, does the individual, do our law enforcement folks whose primary responsibility is not cybersecurity, do they know enough about it? Do we as a community all know enough about it that we see something like that, we know what to do, what it might represent, and that it might be important? What about these kind of things? You know, as was mentioned, I'm a professor at the university. I teach computer security courses there. I tell my students about the little yellow stickies, and they all go, oh, come on, Dr. White, nobody does that. Really, do they? Yeah, they do. That one in the top right was actually a photo that I took. Now, if I was a little bit better at marketing, I would have made sure my pen was right side up so that you could actually see CIS correctly. But what I was doing there, this was a conference I was at. Someone had got up from their computer and went off to do something, went to the bathroom or whatever. I don't know. I looked over and they left the computer connected. I could have gone over and played around with it. But not only that, but they had the little yellow sticky on the computer. For heaven's sakes. And what you don't see there, what I'm covering up with the pen, was the password. So we had the user ID and the password there, for anybody to play around with. And the other ones are other examples. If we have people doing this kind of thing, we're in a heap of trouble. And you know what? It happens all the time. So when I separated from the Air Force and went back to San Antonio, got a job for a security company there, I went to get a bank. I had to have a local bank to have an account and for ease of banking and that kind of fun stuff. I went in there, signed up for everything. The nice lady across the desk from me took all my information, typed it into the computer, got up to go off and go get my checks for me that I was going to be using. And I'm curious. I'm a cyber security kind of guy. I decided, okay, did she lock her terminal? So I'm looking around to see, leaning over the desk, looking at the terminal to see if she had locked it. And, well, not only had she not locked it, but right there on the terminal, on the monitor, was a little yellow sticky that said the password for July is July, July. I kid you not. Now, I use this as an example in my class because there's several problems with this. Not only does she have a little yellow sticky, that's a problem, but the password is July, July. I bet it dollars to donuts here that I could guess what August password's going to be too, right? And not only that, what did she do with the little yellow sticky when it was August? Did that just get thrown away in a little round receptacle there that just gets tossed out that anybody can go rummaging through? So there's all sorts of issues with that, with this. Here's something, you probably can't necessarily read this, it's kind of small there, but we get these things all the time. These are the kind of things where someone says, oh my goodness, you've reached your email limit, you need to click here and provide your user ID and password, or you're going to be kicked off and you'll never receive an email ever again in your life. One of these kind of messages. We get them all the time. This is the kind of thing that that person in South Carolina and that person in Detroit clicked on something related to, similar to this kind of thing. Well, if we got people that are doing that, it makes it awful hard to secure your organization, the community, and whatever. Everybody needs to understand we got to be suspicious of these things. And what do we need to do when we see something like that? Okay, how many people recognize those two little posters there on the left, down bottom left? Do we all know that? Smokey the Bear. Smokey the Bear has been an exceedingly absolutely tremendous success with that campaign. I've seen some studies by the Ad Council that said that greater than like 95% of the population can tell you what the slogan is. Now, it depends on your age, because for some of us, with gray hair, it's only you can prevent forest fires, because that was the original one, but a few years ago they changed it to only you can prevent wildfires, so depending on your age, you may remember one or the other, but over 95% of the people, the population, know those. They can recite those things. McGruff, take a bite out of crime. Same thing with that. Not quite as high as Smokey the Bear, but very similar. We all understand. I remember getting lessons about Smokey the Bear and all that when I was in elementary school. I knew that part of my job in life was to prevent forest fires. I had a responsibility to do that. I knew that. I grew up knowing that. I know for me that I'm supposed to be helping everybody take a bite out of crime. That's part of my responsibility. Do we have a similar, and this is where I mentioned this earlier this morning, I suddenly got all sorts of suggestions. We don't have currently a cyber animal of some sort to remind us that we all need to be worried about cyber security. So we had some suggestions later on, and so we'll find it eventually. We'll come up with something. But that's the kind of thing that we need, that we can teach our young, so when my 5-year-old, you know, if you have a 5-year-old in elementary school, they're learning about Smokey the Bear, they're learning about McGruff the dog, and they're learning about, you know, Fred the Floppy. I don't know what it's going to be, but, you know, something. We need to, if we're going to get this culture, almost done here, this culture of security, how do we get this started? And I propose that where we need to start is with the digital natives. We are not digital natives. No. Larry was talking about a digital native. When he gives his granddaughter the telephone, is she scared to start pushing buttons? Heck no, she's more than happy to push all sorts of things. Not only is she happy to push things, she's downloading things on his telephone for him. You know, a lot of us, on the other hand, you get a new program, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to click on that. I'm not sure, what do I need to do? You know, what does the manual say? You know, kids don't read manuals. They start plugging away, don't they? We, you know, old fogies, we want to read the manual to see what we're supposed to be doing. Kids don't. They've grown up with these pieces of equipment. They love the electronics. They're comfortable with the electronics. We need to get to them. We need to get to them and let them know that they have a responsibility. They need to be securing their systems, making sure that they're making correct choices. Because if we don't get to them, by the time they get to college and graduate, and if they haven't learned it by then, too late. You know, now we're fighting a losing battle. If we can get to them early, so as they grow up, they know this kind of thing, we stand a chance. Here, this specifically what we're talking about here is I forgot to mention, is a high school and middle school now competition where these students defend a computer. Their job is to go and secure a computer system and a network. And then they're judged on how fast they can do it and how accurately they can do it and all sorts of fun stuff. It's a national competition. It's, like I said, for both high school and middle school. They had last year over 1,500. The preliminary rounds are just about to happen, if I recall correctly, for this year. And we're shooting for 2,000 schools across the country. The winner of these preliminary rounds, there's like 14 teams that go to nationals, to Washington, D.C. for the national championship. All expense paid trip for these kids. Tremendous opportunity and a way to get them excited. And you know what? Those students, it started off being, it's sponsored by the Air Force Association. I've got some pamphlets out there from the Air Force Association on the Cyber Patriot program. Exceedingly simple to get involved in it, to get it run started. It doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, it's simple to get going. But the kids get excited about it. They love this kind of fun stuff. It's a tremendous challenge. There's college versions of these things. Here's some pictures of, we do a lot of security competitions at UTSA. Here's the National Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. So what we're teaching these kids in junior high, high school, look, there's a career in this stuff. You enjoying this stuff? There's a career that you can have. And you know what's a pretty good paying career, as a matter of fact. Security pays pretty good. And you know what? It's not going away anytime in the near future either, unfortunately. So you got to get into security, you got a job for a while. And it pays really well. Think about it is the message. This year we had the winner of the National Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition got to go to the White House and be congratulated by, the president was busy, the Vice President Biden was able to come and congratulate the team members, tell them how important cybersecurity was and all that. They also had the team picture there on Times Square. So this is something that the nation recognizes this is important. And this is the kind of thing that's going to help get people excited, get the kids excited about it. In Texas, we had one of the national champions a few years ago, came from San Antonio. And it was from a Title I school in the southwest side of San Antonio, Hispanic, predominantly area of the community. Most of these kids don't even think about going to college. You know, it's just not, you know, they go into the services industries, basically. San Antonio primarily, you know, the big industry there is tourism, a lot of service industry type folks. We have the winning team with some folks coming from that high school. The principal decided that she was going to do something about this to help promote it. She had an assembly that she called and congratulated the team members when they came back. She had Letterman jackets for the team. She had the cheerleaders come on out and do the little cheering thing as the team got introduced. This made a significant impact on the students, and the participation in that program at that high school just ballooned after that. You know. Just here, I'll just finish these things real quick. The Cyber Patriot folks did some studies. You can see the shift. The gray is before Cyber Patriot. The teal color is after Cyber Patriot. And knowledge of cybersecurity principles. The kids are learning cybersecurity. They're understanding there's careers in cybersecurity. They're likely to go into that. And here's an interesting one, too. Women. We don't have enough women in the field, but they understand after participating in Cyber Patriot that, hey, this is something that women can do, too. You know, girls, you can grow up and be a cybersecurity professional. So culture of security, here's what we need to start doing. Last slide. Kind of things that we need. We need to start thinking about it not just as that's somebody else's responsibility. That's, you know, Fred is the IT security geek. No. We all are security geeks at some level. If you've got a high-speed internet connection on your computer at home, you need to be doing something to secure that system, because otherwise your system could be usurped, it could be taken over, it could be used in a botnet and an attack on somebody else. You need to be securing the system. What do I need to do? Start with some easy stuff. We can do things like updating, making sure you have the patches, utilizing security software. Oftentimes it comes with a system. Be skeptical of those emails that you're getting that look weird. If it looks weird, probably is, don't click on it, you know, okay? Don't play with the attachments. Pick good passwords, protect your passwords, don't put them on little yellow stickies, all these kind of things. These are the kind of things that everybody in the community needs to be doing, and we need to be making sure that our kids know that they should be doing it. By the way, not only is that program middle school and high school, one of the things that we've done for the Air Force Association as part of the Cyber Patriot program is we've now developed some games that have been developed, have been delivered just a few weeks, about a month ago, I guess now, to the LA Unified School District. They're the first school district in the country to get them, but they're designed for K through 6 grades to start teaching online safety and computer security to kids in K through 6. So hit them as early as possible. So that's all I have to say. And now that hopefully we got you all warmed up and got you excited about cybersecurity, and I will turn it over to Larry again, yes, he's going to do the intro. So thank you.
I have a mascot idea. The Cyber, C-Y-B-E-R, Tiger, Cyber-Tooth Tiger. Okay, forget it. Just a thought, just a thought. Our next, you know, I know what Nancy just said. Start thinking. Our next presenter is Jeff Shaffer. He's going to be talking about the participatory culture, mobile issues, and education. Just as we've talked about the community effort, and this is something that we all have to work on together, and some of the ideas that were run on the slide at the very end. If you're not sure of what is being sent to you, probably you don't know the person, it's probably best not to open it. And they're getting very clever. I got an email yesterday. Said, "Dear Larry, we know you're hosting a cybersecurity summit in Hurst. Look at this link. We think you will find it very interesting." It didn't have the S on the HTTP, which meant that it wasn't a secure link. It was not from someone I knew. I didn't open it. Later that day, I found out that it was a spam that was going out and hitting a lot of people about Android and the flashlight, I believe it was, that was going out. So I lucked out, even though it was addressed to me personally, and it sounded like it was something that would probably be very interesting because of the conference that is going on today. So they have become very sophisticated. They're able to make it look like they're personally talking to you. So you've always got to be on your guard. Our next speaker is Jeff Shaffer, United States Secret Service, Dallas Field Office. He's been with the Secret Service for 24 years. He spent 5.5 years on the Presidential Protective Division for Presidents Clinton and Bush, and he has spent the majority of his career in the area of electronic crimes. Now, I'm not sure what that means, Jeff. You spent your time in electronic crimes or preventing on that. I'm just reading what was sent here. Jeff currently holds 2 positions. He is a group leader for the North Texas Electronic Crimes Task Force, where he manages their mobile investigations and network intrusion cases, and he's also the manager of the Digital Forensics Lab. Jeff is a founding member of both the Mobile Interest Group, the North Texas chapter of Cloud Security Alliance. He was previously assigned to the Secret Service Headquarters Electronic Crimes Branch for over 2 years, where he researched smart card technology and managed the National Mobile Devices Program. In addition to conducting protective advances worldwide, Jeff has invested cases involving credit card and identity fraud, counterfeit currency, and other governmental obligations, as well as narcotics and telecommunications fraud. He has spent 15 years in telecommunications and electronic crimes. And we're going to ask Jeff to come forward and speak with us now. Jeff?
Okay, good evening. So this is a presentation that covers 16 hours, and I'm not kidding. So I've cut it down, obviously, and to keep myself from going over, I gotta set my timer, which means I had to turn my phone on, so hopefully my daughters or someone won't call me in the middle of this, but I have to hear the alarm go off or I'm just gonna keep on talking. So I do tend to walk around a little bit, so let me get this, make sure it's working. We're out the floor in front of me. We good? Okay. So this first slide is basically explaining to you what we do and why is the Secret Service here, because everyone knows what we do as far as protection, protecting the presidents and their families and foreign heads of state, that kind of thing. That actually came second for Secret Service. Our first mission was to combat counterfeit currency back in 1865 when the states printed their own money before there was a Federal Reserve System. So after the Civil War, the southern states were upset about it, so they started putting a lot of counterfeit money out there, trying to put the economy into turmoil and fight the war again, basically. So as financial payment systems changed over the years, and checks and credit cards and now online payment and near-field communications payment, our investigative authority also expanded. As you can see, some of the different statutes that we cover there. The protection actually came later, but that's what we're more known for. So again, as the payment systems changed, you can see the other statutes that we cover as well. And I don't remember the exact year, but we were mandated by the president under a presidential decision directive to create cybercrime or electronic crime task forces, and it is preventing electronic crimes, by the way, not being involved in electronic crimes. So we were tasked with going out and working with the private sector and academia to combat cybercrime. At the time, cybercrime was, this big, and now it's a huge issue. So we were one of the first that got involved in computer forensics for 2 reasons. One was desktop publishing. So a lot of kids started taking money and putting it on the scanners, printing it out, and then going to the school cafeteria and passing the counterfeit money. So we had to get into computer forensics for that. And then with the advent of chat rooms and things on the internet, again, aging myself a little bit, but chat rooms, they would type threats to our protectees, I want to kill the president, something like that. So we would have to track those back and determine, who was the author of that from the IP address. So we got into that stuff very, very early. So we have 38 of these task forces around the country now, as well as a couple overseas. Critical infrastructures, there's a couple of them that we've been tasked with working specifically with the private sector. That is, the White House is considered an infrastructure on its own, the telecommunications infrastructure, and banking and finance infrastructure, which of course is where from the early days of counterfeiting and stuff like that. So just a little bit of history real quickly. Where did the cell phone start? Who do we thank, or in some cases blame for this, right? Depends on your take. This is Dr. Martin Cooper, who came up with the phone, again, earlier than it says here, as you'll see in the next slide. This picture was taken in 1938, and it is a woman who is actually talking on a prototype cell phone that I think, I don't know if it says up there or not, but I think it was Nortel. So I put that up there only to show you, if they were looking at this technology in 38, and we didn't see it till 73 when Dr. Martin Cooper, working for Bell Labs, came up with it, what are they working on now that we're not going to see for 40 more years? It's kind of creepy. So that's not supposed to be in there. Again, this is a presentation of 600 slides over 16 hours, so I forgot to hide that one. So I was asked to talk to you about mobile and a little bit on the participatory culture, we'll talk about in a minute. So when it comes to mobile, you have to have the same practices that you have on your computer with your mobile device. And we spoke about this a little bit earlier to some of the IT professionals that were in the room. The training that you're giving people and that you have yourselves as far as you don't open emails that you don't know who they're from and things like that, like we just heard about, doesn't carry over on cell phones, and it needs to. So that's something you need to think about on your own personal practices, is that once again, it's very easy for me to either spoof your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend's phone number and send you a message and you think it's from them and it's not. So you have to pay attention just like you would on your computer, on your phone. He mentioned the phishing, where they're sending you phishing emails trying to get you to click on something. I could do the same thing with a text message. I said earlier, if you're a big Tony Romo fan, now that they're 5-1 and actually winning, I could send you a message saying, hey, Tony Romo involved in a car accident on his way home from the game on Sunday night. You might click on that, A, because it came over your phone, B, it's something that you're interested in. But when you click on that, that could be potentially a piece of malware or spyware. So there's, I'll say there's three issues. There's spyware, there's malware, and then there's applications. Applications we all have on our phone. We download them all the time. So which is the bigger threat? Well, you can see up there there's spyware. Most of the spyware out there, what can it do? It does things like, I can remotely access the microphone, and basically it works as a bugging device. I can hear what's going on in the room. Do I have to be outside your home to do that? No, I could be in New York City and hear exactly what's going on in your room. I can activate that. I get your emails, I get your text messages. If you get a phone call, I hit a button, and I can hear both sides of the conversation. So this is what some spyware will do. Kind of nasty. Obviously, it invades your privacy. The good news on that is, for the most part, they have to have your phone in order to put it on there. So if you're keypad locking your phone, or even if you lose it, or they steal it, they can't get in it, you're pretty safe from the spyware. With the exception of Phone Creeper up there, which is one of the ones that you can have installed via the SD card. So if you're an Android user out there, or a non-Apple user, I should say, where you have a little micro SD, the storage card, and someone hands you one, make sure they're your friend, because they could have Phone Creeper on there, and then it would launch in the background once you put it in your phone. Why would you want another SD card? Does anyone know how much data an 8 gigabytes is? It's a lot. Good answer. 2,097,000 pages. So that's 2,097,000 pages of stuff, emails, data, text, notes, pictures, what have you. So that's a lot of stuff, so obviously a potential target. So applications are the things that we download. There's spy applications too. There's remote cameras. There's cameras that don't come on unless there's motion in the room. That's what that yellow one there is on the right. It's a motion activated camera. So you set that up and leave the room, and then when you walk in, the camera activates. Of course, the screen stays black so you don't know it, and it records what's going on. But these are applications you can purchase. This isn't spyware or anything. This is just someone misusing applications. But don't forget malware. If you're hearing about malware and things on computers, it is either instantaneous or a very short time later that malware will be modified for mobile. So you had Zeus, and then there was Zipmo, which was Zeus for mobile, and SpyEye, and then SpyEye went for mobile. You can kind of see a little bit about the progression there, kind of how they came about. I've got another slide here that explains why people were doing it, and a little bit of malware data as well. So they're saying that malware for Android should hit 1 million pieces in 2013. And as you can see at the very bottom, a couple of years ago, Android was 46% of the malware market, and it's now 97%. So in my opinion, it's funny to watch when Android comes out with a new release. All the hackers kind of pop up like whack-a-mole, and they like that. And it takes their attention off of some other devices. The problem with Android is a lot of people don't update. So when you don't update your devices or your computer, it makes you a little more susceptible as well. So applications, again, I said that this is probably your biggest threat. It's not necessarily spyware or malware, particularly if you're maintaining your device, you're keeping it updated, you keep it locked and things like that. It's someone maybe coming into your home or into your place of business, into your church, wherever you go, and you're using an application against you. These applications are released. Sometimes security is 5 to 10 years behind. What I mean by that is if there's a company A comes out with an app, and everybody loves it, and everyone's getting it, and it's increasing their revenue, company B says, I probably need an app like that, and they go to their app developers and they say, I want it in 90 days. Give me an app in 90 days to compete against our competitor. And they do. Now, are they going to go to their boss and say, sorry, boss, I can't make that 90-day deadline because the security's not in there yet? Or are they going to not mention that to the boss and make sure they meet that deadline so they can get their bonus and keep their job? Right, they're going to make the deadline. So security oftentimes is way behind the actual release of these applications. There are, I think what's to say there, 56 billion applications, and what I don't have up there, no I don't, 10,000 are applied for every day. So there's 10,000 applications either coming from somebody's garage or coming from whoever being applied for every day to get out onto the market. So the motivations behind some of the spyware and malware were, it was a joke. Back in the old days, it was a joke. If I could turn on your spa remotely in Sweden, because they use spas a lot, and turn it on remotely, I would do that. Ha ha ha, it's a big laugh. Till you go on your summer vacation for the month of July, and they had it on for 30 days, and you get your electric bill. And it's not so funny anymore. But that's kind of how it started. But it's grown into stalking, corporate espionage, harassment, things like that. Again, malware evolution. This is just kind of lays out the timeline. When malware came out, what it was for, kind of what it did. There are good bugs, not just bad bugs. A lot of the companies will offer you tools and applications that will either monitor, provide like fencing. A lot of people with their kids, when they first start driving, they'll put an application on the phone that will send a text message back if that phone goes outside of a particular geographic area because you don't want your kid driving too far, and you'll get notification. So there's bugs or applications like that that can be good, and obviously there's bad ones as well. So let's talk about the future a little bit. Where are these devices going? Well, you can see a couple pictures up there. The big one that you should probably look at there is in the middle where it says hi. That's the Samsung Smart Refrigerator. Does anybody have one of those? Of course, no one's going to admit it right now, probably. But again, the Samsung Smart Refrigerator, they're estimating that in 6 years, by 2020, is that right? Yeah. There will be 20 billion internet-connected devices. 20 billion. What are they connecting? Well, they're connecting refrigerators. They want to connect your shoes. Why do they want to connect your shoes? Because they want to tell you how far you've walked, and it's probably time for you to buy a new pair. It's lost the support. The sole's getting thin, it's time for you to buy a new pair, so they're going to get business that way. The Internet of Things, again, turning on your lights, the Nest thermostat, your alarms, your security system. You can go on your phone and look at the cameras in real time around your house or what have you. Those are all going to be connected to mobile. So you're looking at a technology that's still very, very immature, but it's conducting functionality that's very, very mature. Very, very strong functionality in these devices on the backbone of a very immature technology. So all of those are potential points of compromise. So if you look at this is the old way of banking. You had your payment and network provider, and you're acquiring and merchant bank, your issuer bank, and of course your merchants and consumers. That's the old day with your credit card, right? It looks a little bit more like that today. So you've got your internet innovators, your PayPals, your Visa, your near-field communications, and you still have your card issuers, acquirers, and merchants and customers, and then you've got your devices. Does it matter if I'm running Windows on a HP computer or a Sony Vaio or a Dell? Does it matter if I'm running Windows? It's pretty much the same, right? Does it matter if I'm running an Android on a HTC phone, a Huawei, a Motorola, a Nokia, a Samsung? It matters a lot. The way that they have their proprietary wares on their phones makes a difference on how that firmware actually operates. So with computers, it's not as important, not as risky, maybe not as many points of compromise, but on phones there are. So near-field communications, again, sitting in this is basically a picture of putting your phone on a menu and then sending your order, basically texting it back to the kitchen. Talked about geofencing a few minutes ago. It's very, very good for sales as you're walking down the street and wherever in a mall, and as you walk through the mall, they're sending you messages based on things you might be interested in. Again, a new pair of shoes, whatever, tennis rackets, balls, they'll send you messages to your phone explaining that they're going to cut you deals or whatever. So I thought this was interesting just because of the narcissist in me. Maybe someday when I die, I'm going to have a little RFID chip on my headstone that someone can come and read with the phone and learn all about my very, very boring life. But I'm hoping maybe somebody will. But again, that's a great place to go fishing for information. You have what? I have date of birth, which is on the headstone anyway, date of death, and I've got all kinds of information. Maybe where I went to high school. Cool, I go back and get the yearbook, where did I live? I can get a whole bunch of information based on something like that, even though it's kind of a cool technology. What about wearable medical devices, or implantable medical devices, or ingestible medical devices, or injectable medical devices? All these devices have connectivity via some type of communication network. All points of compromise, all places that you have to worry about, which I have in a couple more slides, data leakage. If you don't know what data leakage is, that's basically applications causing your phone to send data out that it wasn't necessarily designed to do, or in some cases it was designed to do, but when you didn't read the fine print at the bottom when you download the application, it said it was going to do that, but you didn't read it and you just clicked OK. Proximity devices, again, talking about near-field communications, where I can send you something phone to phone. That can be captured by devices like you see here, or here. That's actually a RFID intercept device. It's kind of big, but like anything else, that technology is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So if I can put that next to a cash register, and as you bring out your credit card, I can capture the data off your credit card by using this. Because if you don't know this already, most of your credit cards now transmit data. If you don't know that, you need to. Again, I talked about the Nest thermostat. This is basically an example where it's already been cracked and hacked. Light bulbs that are connected, already been cracked and hacked. These are all just examples of what's already been broken. A high-level crack on the light bulbs there. This is an app that will turn off your Android phones remotely. The iPhone 5S fingerprint, anyone know how long it took to break that fingerprint security? 72 hours. Hackers broke it in 72 hours. So again, the Google Wallet, Visa Pay, the Square also hacked, and data leakage, as I mentioned before. So let's dig a little deeper on this data leakage. This came from a company called Via Forensics. You can look it up online, but they tested 4 devices, 3 Androids and 1 iPhone, and what they found was it was leaking data. What was it leaking? Well, IP addresses, calendar information, contacts, documents, your IMEI or your serial number. Think of that as being like the VIN number on your car. So they're capturing that data. Your location information, buddy lists, what your settings were. And then it found an IP address. Well, let's take a look at that. Where was that? Well, it turned up to be at China Unicom in Beijing, right next to the Olympic Village in China. That's where that data was being sent from some of these apps. Some of these apps were sending information to 4 different countries. So all your information on your phone, and not all of it, some of that information was going to 4 different countries. So now that being said, let's talk about the participatory culture right now, because I'm running out of time. I don't want to step on her time. So social media and phishing we've talked about. So in the old days, if you're familiar with Ira Winkler, he used to do a lot of studies for corporations and security. And what he would do, he would go to a local restaurant, he would pull a business card out of the fishbowl where you win a free lunch with you and your pals or whatever, and then he would go get an ID made in that name, a fake ID or fake driver's license. He'd take his coat off, he'd go to the courtesy patrol at ABC Company, and he'd go, oh, here's my business card, here's my driver's license. I left my coat up in the office when I went to lunch earlier, and that's where my badge is to get in. And the courtesy, oh, okay, sure, Mr. Shaffer, go on in. Because you have an ID and you have a business card that you stole from here, right? And that's how he would get in. Today, that fishbowl is much, much bigger. With all the social media sites that are out there, Pinterest, Facebook, you name it, that's a huge fishbowl now, where you can go out and just start hand-picking information you want to steal someone's ID. So you have to be very careful what you post. And it's not always what you post, it's what your family posts. Story of a guy posting how proud he was that his brother got selected to go to the undercover narcotics program. Probably something you don't want to post. I'm proud of my brother, he's going undercover. Here he is with me, So anyway, there was a company here in Dallas-Fort Worth that had 44 employees posting on LinkedIn about projects they were working on that had yet to be released to the public. Yeah, so everybody in the room sees a problem with that, right? So real quickly, social media explained. I don't know if I really should go with this, I don't have time. But these are examples of social media sites and what they do as it relates to donuts. So on Twitter, you would say, I'm eating a donut. On Facebook, you post that you like donuts. On Foursquare, you say, this is where I eat donuts. On Instagram, here's a photo of my donut. On YouTube, here I am eating a donut. And LinkedIn, my skills include donut eating. And on Pinterest, here is a donut recipe. On Last.fm, I'm now listening to the band Donuts. And on Google+, I'm a Google employee who eats donuts. Now, there are people that will post to one of these, and it auto-posts to all of them. So it goes out on all these different social media. So what is the participatory culture I talked about? I think there's only one of you in the room. And she knows who she is. This is that age group of people who you can see how they were raised. They participated in everything. They never kept score. Everybody was a winner. No one was a loser. If 2 + 2 was 5, you said was 5, it's okay. We're not going to mark it wrong because then you might get upset. You'll figure it out later, right? If your team went 0-10 and you got a trophy, this is what created because your team stunk. You may have been a great player, but your team was bad at 0-10, right? But you got a trophy anyway. This is the culture that is now in the workforce. They participate in everything. They don't understand the consequences. This is why you get 44 employees posting things on LinkedIn about that haven't been released to the public yet. So that's a problem with who they are. And just one more example, I think I'll stop early, or not early, but before I get to the end of it. In 2005, this is a picture of when the Pope came out, I guess, for his first public appearance. And if you look closely, you can see 1 or 2 phones in the picture. In 2013, the new Pope came out, and this is what it looked like. Okay? I would submit to you the people in 2005 can tell you how that event felt to them better than the ones in 2013. The ones in 2005 are actually paying attention to being there in the moment. That's my alarm. To being there in the moment. I told you, I'll just keep going. And the people in 2013 were too busy trying to get on some kind of social media and show everybody else. So that's where we are today. I don't know if any of you are like that, but I definitely know that generation coming up is. Again, just some more, a couple of the apps that the kids are using, things that you're posting on Facebook about. I have a class on Monday nights. Well, good, that tells me you're not home on Monday, right? Do you post on Facebook or somewhere that you have a class every Monday night? You probably don't want to do that because you're telling any bad guy that, you know, either your kids are home by themselves, if you're a single parent or what have you, or at least maybe your house is empty. So it's things like that that you don't post. Birthdays, kids, how many kids you have, all that kind of stuff. And then at hacker conferences, this was a t-shirt people were wearing, social engineering specialist, because there is no patch for human stupidity. Okay, they wear these t-shirts, and they're right, you can't patch that. So you do have to be careful what you open. That was mentioned by the previous speaker, and that's good, I blew through that, but there's my contact information, which you're welcome to get at any point during the presentation or during the Q&A, let me know. But anyway, we will respond and help you guys out if you have issues. That's what we do from a law enforcement perspective. So with that, I think I'm like a minute over, so we're good. Thanks.
Thank you. How many of you have ever ordered anything on Amazon and 2 days later you've gotten an email asking you if you are interested in a similar product from another company? I've done that, where someone has been able to get the information and knows your email and can send you a message back asking you to buy something that you had absolutely no interest in. How many of you are on Facebook? Any of you? I have some good friends, and I've talked to them about this, and they continue to do it, but they constantly post where they are on a trip. Like, I'm in New York having a great time, and I'm thinking, okay, if I'm a thief and I get on that Facebook and I realize they're in New York, that means no one is home. So you need to be careful how you post information, personal information on any of these social sites. My wife is a instructor at the College of Education at TCU, and when employers begin to check out the student teachers as to whether they want to hire them, one of the places they go to are these social websites. And you would be surprised how many of these student teachers have put on the website pictures that should not be on any website. And some of those people have not gotten jobs because of some selfie that they have posted on there. I have heard it's best that you don't even post your own picture on there, because those pictures can be hacked and put into another site that would be most embarrassing. So keep that in mind. Our next presentation is entitled Scams Targeting Citizens, Resources and Recommendations. And Stacey, if you'd start coming on up. Stacey Wright is the Security Operations Center, S.O.C. Intel Program Manager at the Center for Internet Security, where she runs the day-to-day operations of cyber intelligence analysis programs with the Integrated Intelligence Center and Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis. Got to catch my breath after that. The program focuses on providing actionable intelligence based on state, local, tribal, and territorial governmental issues. Prior to her employment at CIS, Stacey was the Cyber Intelligence Analyst for the FBI Albany Division, where she was responsible for coordinating the local cyber intelligence program and served as the FBI's liaison for multi-state ISAC. Stacey began her career as an information systems specialist for a city's emergency communications and fire departments. She is a formerly trained FBI intelligence analyst, a national speaker on cyber crime, and former member of the United States Intelligence Community Advanced Analyst Program. Come and talk to us a little bit about the scams that are targeting us. Stacey?
Okay, so basically what he said in a lot of acronyms means that A, the government pays me to do my job. Lots of acronyms, that was a giveaway. And two, what I do, what I'm supposed to do with my team is track the bad guys. We figure out who the bad guys are, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it. So tonight, I'm going to talk about scams a little bit. And I wanted to introduce first my friend Robin Sage. So Robin Sage is a bad guy. Black screen, we know that, right? Black hats, bad guys. Now she looks like your average participatory individual in their 20s. Chances are she's from a country like Russia or the Ukraine. She's from a country like that, she's involved in financial fraud. Those countries are notorious for financial fraud. They're writing the malware that we hear about. So when our other speakers have talked about Zeus and some of the other things that are coming out, a lot of times they're coming from Russia and the Ukraine. If she's involved in something like a scam, chances are she's more likely from Romania or Nigeria. Those countries are notorious for producing scams, especially internet fraud, like auction fraud, Craigslist fraud. So she's from one of these countries. If she's from China or the United States, though, she's more likely to be involved in everything. I hate to say it, but the US actually produces a lot of cyber criminals. And a lot of the scams I'm going to talk about tonight go the opposite direction from everything you've heard so far. We keep talking about how things are getting more sophisticated. Well, the back end to that is more people are becoming cyber criminals. They're not necessarily becoming more sophisticated, they're figuring out how to be a little bit more devious. And that's where the scams and frauds come into play. So these are the types of scams we would typically see from somebody like Robin. Spam email, we all get these. Have you ever stopped to think why they send spam email? You got the pharmacy spam. A lot of that comes out of Canada. That kind of pharmacy spam has the entire intent of getting you to buy some pharmaceutical. It may cost me $100 to send 1 million emails. Now, if I, out of those 1 million emails, can convince 3 people to buy those fake medications, I just made my money back. And chances are, out of 1 million emails, I'm gonna get 100 people or 200 people. So I'm making a lot of money really quickly and easily. And I'm located in a foreign country. It makes it easy to get away with it because it's very hard to track somebody down once they cross our borders. Now the spam I've got up there is Bank of America spam and FedEx. Classic. We see this all the time. I'm willing to bet everybody in this room with an email account has received these. What they want you to do is open a PDF or click on a link. That's going to open something on your computer and download malware. That's why they send them out. So in this case, it's downloading malware. You open a PDF, it's going to actually open it. If you open the FedEx PDF, you will see a tracking number. You're going to think you have a package waiting and they're trying to reach you. Well, that's because they want to fool you. They want to make sure you don't realize that in the background, they're downloading financial malware onto your computer. So the whole point of this is to put malware on your computer. Now, chances are, if I'm Robin, I'm doing this because somebody paid me to do it. I'm not making money off of the malware itself. I'm making money because the person who wrote the malware is actually paying me to send you spam to infect your computer. And I get paid for every computer I infect. Is that illegal? It's a lot more questionable. And it depends a lot on what country you're in. So that's where the spam comes from. If we take this a little bit further, though, I don't have to send you an email. How many people have had Microsoft call them? Yeah, it happens. It wasn't Microsoft. So what this is a tech support call scam. Now, I want to make more money. Sending spam is okay, but I may only make a penny a download. So I can send 1 million spam messages, but that may only get me a couple $1,000s. I do that every day. That's still pretty good money, but I want to make more. So I hire a call center. And the call center calls every phone number, just right down the line, robocalls, and tells you as a computer user that your computer is attacking them. They say that they're Microsoft or some other cybersecurity company. Your computer is attacking them. They want to help you. You can do this. They'll step you through everything. They show you very classic examples. If you let them, they'll put software on your computer so they can remotely access it and show you error messages. Those error messages are normal. They're supposed to be there. They're not a problem. But if you don't know that, it looks like a problem. So the caller shows you these error messages, and now he tells you, well, we can fix this. $50 for antivirus. It's actually a pretty good deal. You can get free antivirus, but $50 for a year's subscription isn't too bad, really. So you get it, you buy it. Well, you just gave your credit card number to a scammer. He can do whatever he wants with that credit card number now. And he's taking $50 from you. Now, the really bad side to this is he's also got access to your computer because you gave him remote access. What we're seeing, what we started seeing in the past year is 3 months later, he calls you back and says, you know what? You got charged by mistake. We figured out this company was fake. We're law enforcement. We want to give you your money back. Could you please give us your credit card number again? Yeah, you get charged again. So if I want to step it up now and I'm local, that gave me $50 from a bunch of different people. But I want more than that. So I buy a skimming device. Skimming devices look like ATMs. They look like the credit card swipes on gas pumps. These are pictures of a couple of them. They can be anywhere from teeny tiny to actual entire cases that go over the ATM. You might have heard people say, well, you need to watch what ATM you go to. Pay attention to it. Look and see if something changed. They're trying to protect you from a skimming device. Skimming devices do something as simple as record your card as you put it in, and then they have a video camera to capture your PIN number. So now somebody has all 3 tracks of your card, your debit card, ATM card, and your PIN number. Well, it takes about $1 to print a new credit card. They're really cheap. If you remember going to a store and they ask you to flip over your card so they can enter the security code on the back, that's to try and prevent cards that are generated because of skimming devices. So if I install a skimmer, I walk away with thousands and thousands of dollars just like that, because I can drain the money out of everybody who used that ATM during the course of the day. So all of a sudden, I'm getting really rich. I like this. Or I should say, what my company wants me to say is Robin Sage is getting really rich. All right. Now, I've got all of this money. Excuse me. Robin has all of this money, but she doesn't live in the United States. Anybody seen that sign? Telephone poles? Ever wondered, how do you make thousands of dollars working from home? You're a money mule. The whole point behind this is you're helping Robin get her money out of the United States. She's going to trick you into doing it for her. She's going to tell you something like, well, I'm a foreign company and we need your help. We can't do business in the United States, or we need to pay employees in the United States. So we're going to put money into your bank account, and if you want, open a separate account. That's okay too. And then we're going to ask you to write checks for us, or transfer the money someplace for us. We need you to act as our accountant, quote unquote. And a couple days later, you agree, you sign the paperwork, and by the way, they actually want you to sign paperwork now, so they can do a credit check on you, which means you just gave away your Social Security number, full name, and date of birth. But you open your account. You give the account information to them, and they transfer money into your account. You then transfer that money wherever they tell you to, keeping a percentage of it, because that's how you're going to get paid. What has really happened is they stole that money using malware from a company or another person. This is a case where we hear about Zeus in particular, keyloggers, taking money from somebody, and it's $1 million or $600,000. You occasionally see stories like this in the paper. Keystroke loggers are pieces of malware on your computer that record every keystroke, every key you press. So they record your username and password when you log into your bank account. And then they send it to the bad guy who owns the keylogger. That means he now has your login information and can transfer money out. And he does, to the money mules. The money mules are located in the US, which makes it a lot harder for the bank to realize that the final destination is overseas. So if he steals $100,000, he transfers it to 10 money mules. Much smaller amounts, much less likely to get caught. Money goes overseas. If you're the bad luck to be one of those money mules and you transferred that money, you're on the hook when the bank catches you. They will actually take the money out of your account because you made the final transfer. You're responsible for it. So that's what that sign is. Now, Robin's got $100,000, and that's pretty low. She wants more. She's kind of greedy, she's young, she's got needs. Social engineering. For those of you with email and Facebook, have you seen these questions before? Want to get to know each other. I remember getting these back in the 90s. Tell me about yourself. What kind of ice cream do you like? What was the last song you listened to? These are really, really common. They float around and it's 50 or 60 or 100 questions. If you look closely though, those are all the trick questions to get into your bank accounts. These aren't your friends sending them to you. It's the cyber criminals who want access, like your mother's maiden name. All of a sudden, they have all the answers they need to get into your bank account, your credit card account. Everything somebody's going to ask is right there. So who here has heard of the romance scam? Nobody? Okay. Romance scam is a fairly simple one. It starts with you go onto one of those dating websites and you meet somebody and they talk and you get to know them and you got that connection. and they're going overseas for whatever reason, probably to do missionary work. And then they get in trouble. And could you transfer a couple $1,000s, please, to help them out? Because they lost their wallet or something happened. So you do it. A month later, you've transferred over $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to help them out. They were never your soulmate. They were always overseas. This is a scam. The traveler or grandparent scam is a variation off of that. They'll call you and say, you know what? I'm talking to your son. He's in London. We're having a tour. I met him yesterday, great guy, but he lost his wallet. The hotel won't let him leave until he pays his bill. Could you help out? And you sit there thinking, well, this is kind of bad. Or maybe they say he's been in a car accident and in the hospital and he needs money from you. You want to help out. So you wire across. We want to trust people. Somebody met him. They know your son's name. They know he's in London. They know where he's been visiting in London. If you actually stop and think about this for a minute, it's because he posted it on Facebook. Everybody knows he's in London. All right, ransomware. So this is one of the biggest ones we're seeing right now with a program called Crypto Wall. Unfortunately, it's exactly what it sounds like. It encrypts your computer and then demands a ransom to free it. Current ransoms are $200 to $800. Would you pay $200 to get your computer back? All those pictures? Your kids, grandkids, parents? Is it worth $200? Do you have those backed up somewhere? A lot of people don't, so they pay it. Is it worth $800? These criminals are betting that it is worth that money to you, and in most cases, they're right. The guys behind CryptoLocker, which is what you see on the screen, made $50 million at best count. $50 million in under a year. If Robin wants to live the high life, this is a pretty easy way to do it. So we talked about store breaches, and I just want to wrap up with these. Have you ever thought about how some of these breaches actually affect you? I mean, your credit card is there, right? Well, it turns out those credit cards cost money for your bank to send you a new one. So your bank is charging you additional fees. And even if your credit card wasn't hit, the bank's going to wrap that up into the full price because sooner or later your card is going to get hit. But more than that, what do they do with these credit cards? They're posting them to the cyber underground, where they can print new cards and go out and spend money off of them. Credit cards end up going for $1 or $2 a piece on the cyber underground. Now, if you've got really great credit history and lots of money and, say, a black card or a gold card or whatever, one of the really good ones, it might go for $10 because they can spend a lot more off of it. But truly, a credit card in the cyber underground, especially from the US because we are the biggest victim, runs at $1 to $2. It's cheap. People buy them in bulk. You don't go there to buy 1 or 2. You go there to buy 1,000. And they know that 75% of them are good. After a week, 60% of them. It goes downhill. So they go back and buy more. But that's where these credit card breaches come from. That's why this matters so very much to everybody in this room. So I said I was wrapping up, and this is where we all get to talk. We have a couple recommendations. We've all been up here talking about cybersecurity. There are a couple things you can really do to help secure yourself. Be careful what you share online. Secure it. Make sure you've got HTTPS. If you're transmitting your data online, make sure that S is there, because the S means secure. It's encrypting things. It's not foolproof, but it's a good start. Like we said earlier, secure your tablets and smartphones, not just your computers. Patch and update. Microsoft puts out patches. Apple does it upon occasion. Programs that you download, like Chrome by Google, They all put out patches, and it's worth updating. And if you're going to get rid of those devices, make sure you erase them first. Can't tell you how many studies have been done where they go and pull out a copier that's, being resold, or a cell phone that's being resold, and everybody's information is right there already. When you're traveling, make sure you secure your devices. Put a password on them. That's good practice anyways, especially mobile devices. But if you secure them, you're less likely to have a problem. Use strong, complex passwords. We always say that, but 8+ characters. 10 is better. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. It's got to be that combination. There's something called a password cracking program, and it runs through the dictionary. It tries every word out there. So using a kid's name, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which at last count was the most common password out there, they can break it in seconds if it takes that long. Use controls and don't email sensitive data. And remember that when you're talking about Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi isn't secure. So if you go to a hotel or you're using it here, you're transmitting everything in clear text, and I can guarantee at least the 3 of us have the ability to watch everything you're sending across. Chances are there are a few other people in this room who could do it too. Anything to add, guys?
No, I just hear a question.
Okay, so resources and then questions. I don't think I'm running that, so.
At least nationally, you hear we hear all this on the news, all the problems and all the attacks and stuff like that. Are any of these guys or gals getting caught, at least here in America? Are we punishing any of them?
Yes, it's not our agency, Secret Service, FBI, other agencies. We have offices overseas. We have liaison with the foreign police agencies, and we work closely with them. So a lot of times, if we don't have treaties with those countries that allow for extradition, we try other ways to get them over here. We'll try to scam them right back. See if we can't find somebody to pretend they're female who finds this hacker to be just the smartest thing, and she's so attracted to him because he's so smart and hacked everything. Try and lure him over here to come meet her, that kind of thing. And it's happened. We've actually been successful doing that. So yeah, and then in other cases, if they travel to a friendly country and we have a warrant, we've basically gotten a warrant for their arrest or whatever, and they go into a friendly country, then they'll extradite them here. But it can be difficult depending on where they are. We've got some pending warrants right now for people in countries that are less than friendly to us. But the warrant stays active, so we just wait.
Since I still have the mic, I'll ask a question too, or really it's just revelation. Is that why at a point, like at a gas station, we go in and out quick, or we're asked to go in and out quick with the card, is to prevent a camera reading it?
I'll go. No, that is actually so the device can read it. That's how those devices work. Unfortunately, cameras aren't going to be able to read the magnetic strip on the back of the card. That's the good part. Unfortunately, the way ATM and gas pump and other skimmers work is they're hidden on top. So no matter how quickly you put that credit card in and out, they're still reading it.
It is still a functioning machine. So either the gas pump or the ATM machine or whatever, it's still going to function. You're still going to get what if you came there to get cash out of an ATM, you're still going to get that. They'll create with various resin and components a cover that goes right over, and inside that cover is their device that also reads it and either logs it, or they could be sitting across the street in their car and they're collecting it via, basically cellular or Zigbee type radio or whatever. And if you look up in the light bar, there might be a little pinhole camera there, or sometimes they'll put the little box with the brochures in it, the banking brochures or what have you, and they'll replace that, and in the bottom of that they'll put the brochures in front of a little camera, and that camera is getting your keypad when you put your pin in, or like I said, in the light bar above, they'll replace that light bar with one. Light bar does work, but it has a camera, and you'll see a string of batteries when you take it down. I've actually got pictures in my other, in the presentation, if we have time, of these light bars and things where they do that. But yeah, so walk up to an ATM machine, give it a little tug, and if that whole thing comes off, because a lot of times they're just up there with Velcro. We'll put some Velcro on there, put it right over top of there, and it'll work for days until someone discovers it.
And my best way of recognizing it is look for clean ATMs. Let's be honest, keypads on ATMs, not exactly clean. They're dirty, they're grimy, hundreds of people have touched them. Look for a clean ATM and use the same ATM. Know what it looks like. If you can find a scratch on the ATM, on the keypad, if that scratch vanishes, then there's something on top of it, or they replace the whole ATM. But if you use the same ATM again and again and know what it looks like, you've got a chance of recognizing one of these scammer devices.
I've got two questions. One, I heard years back, I'm over here, that somebody sitting out in the parking lot at a Lowe's or Home Depot can intercept the transmission of the transactions that are going to the home office. Okay, that's one question. Two, can you go into a little bit of detail as to, like Home Depot, Target, these where somebody has gone in and taken your credit card information, they've attacked your, I guess your Chase account. Do they have access to all your accounts, your savings accounts, your other checking accounts that you might have at that bank?
Okay, so I'll start with the first part, I guess. For the point-of-sale devices, I don't know that Home Depot or Lowe's work this way. I do know gas stations fairly commonly use Wi-Fi to transmit from the gas pump to the register. They're having to start to move away from that because of exactly that problem. I have actually sat in gas station parking lots and seen people's credit cards go across. It's pretty easy to do. Could we tell you any particular store? No. Is it entirely possible? And yes, because I've done it. So it's very easy. We're talking about Wi-Fi. You connect your phone to the internet. Wi-Fi is any time where you have an internet connection or an online connection of some type where there's no wire. It's going through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or one of these other wireless techniques, and all of those can be sniffed or listened to by someone who's got the right skills. Some of them are encrypted, some of them are safer, but not all of them.
I was just waiting for my mic to turn green. I turned it off. It's green. Exactly. On the first part of your question, you hit it right on the nose. Generally speaking, they're trying to encrypt it, and you'll see the traffic, but unless you can decrypt it, you're relatively safe. But again, if it's batch data, they can grab it and then just brute force it and get to it eventually. In some cases, as far as the breaches themselves, my office, my squad is working a lot of the ones here. It's a little difficult to comment on open investigations. Suffice it to say that some of them are common vulnerabilities and some of them are not. In some cases, you've read it's a mistake was made, or a setting or something wasn't changed back the way it should have been after someone else was using it. Because there's issues of vendor management. Let's say you're a company ABC and you have electrician needs access to your system, so you give him access to the system, and then he finishes his work and gets off, but they don't remove his credentials, something like that. So that can happen. It can be all kinds of different things. So again, without getting specific on what causes some of these, some of it is, he was talking about what kind of people may attack you. It could just be they're out there war driving, as he mentioned, where they're just looking for something, an easy target. Criminals are inherently lazy for the most part, so they're going to find the easy target and go for it. The other ones are targeting you or your company specifically. Maybe you're not green enough. Maybe you know, you test on animals, whatever the cause du jour is, so they're targeting you. That's a little more difficult to stop because they've got the time on their hands and they have a grudge, you know, against you. So trying to protect against that is a little more difficult than the ones who just, you know, their settings weren't proper, they weren't logging, they weren't watching the network, seeing what was coming in, what was trying to go out, that kind of thing. So the one common, let's call it weakness in all cyber, is the human factor. It's rarely the actual electronic factor. It's the human factor for the most part. And you know, until we take that out of the equation, which we're not going to do, there's always going to be issues. So again, I apologize not really addressing your question specifically as talking specifically on those attacks, simply because they're just ongoing investigations.
We have a question here.
Hi, thank you guys for coming. I have several questions, but they're all really good. So I'm gonna go really fast. Starting with, I've heard of a software called LastPass. Are you guys familiar with that?
LastPass?
No, L-A-S-T.
Oh, okay, LastPass.
P-A-S-S.
Okay, and what does it do?
Apparently, it is a software that will, you get one main password, and it scrambles or assigns new passwords to different accounts.
Okay.
Kind of seamless, you know, you don't have to keep doing that. It does it for you. Are y'all familiar with LastPass?
Not that particular name, but what it's doing, yes.
Okay. Do you recommend that?
Okay, so I'm not sure any of our companies will actually let us recommend stuff.
Okay.
What I would say is, do password saving programs help? Maybe. That depends. I would tell you the best password solution is always going to be to create your own password, make sure it's a complex password, and you use a different password for everything you log into. Now, we're human. I have about 50 different logins I have to remember. I don't have the ability to remember 50 different passwords. So I have a technique that I use. I use a pattern rather than a password, so I remember it. Is that feasible for everyone? Probably not. Would a program like that maybe help you? Yes, but what happens if you lose that password?
Right.
Everything's gone.
Okay, thank you. What about...
If I could just add one little comment there, just to modify, if I may, just slightly there. If you want to sit down and do the mathematical, you know, figure out mathematically how long will it take to crack a password and so on and so forth. You know, we've been told for years, you know, the 8 characters, as she mentioned, the fancy character set and so on and so forth. What we've actually, if you run the numbers, it's more important to have a longer password. And even if I just use lowercase characters, but I have a 22-character password, that will take longer than an 8-character password that's scrambled with all sorts of different types to crack. So if you just find it extremely difficult to remember those complex ones, pick a long one. Pick a nice long phrase, a passphrase. You know, I hate really long passwords. And all run together. What you want to do is avoid common phrases, but if you pick something that is pertinent to you, that you will remember, and it's long, that oftentimes will help you to remember it, and it's not going to be cracked using a brute force password cracker. But don't pick a common phrase.
Right.
Well, so, and I'm going to modify now.
Okay.
So even a long password, I can crack with a password cracker. It's just going to take me longer. It's easier for me to move on to the next person.
Gotcha.
Same for a complex password. Can it be cracked? Yeah. An 8-character password, even complex, might only take me a couple hours to figure out. The real problem comes down in what my company sees every day is password reuse. So if you have one password that you're reusing on 10 sites, and say one's your local bowling alley, so you can keep up with your scores, well, then what happens when they're hacked and that password's posted online? And it happens every day, repeatedly. Well, now your password's online, and the bad guys like Rob and Sage are going to go out there and figure out your password. Okay, well, now I'm going to go try that on Facebook and see if I can find you there, which is going to tell me what bank you're using so I can try it there. So password reuse, I would tell you, is the biggest problem. Find a way not to reuse a password.
Okay. We had a situation where we have UVerse at our house, and I called UVerse because I was having, I had a question. I was having actually an issue. I call UVerse, and we get redirected to another company that redirected us actually to another company. It was the strangest thing. Is that now that I am looking back on it, it sure seems like that was something was wrong with that whole situation. Are y'all hearing things like that happening, where they're basically pirating the telephone numbers of customer support companies?
If you called them with the number that you know is theirs, you were probably safe.
Okay.
The issue is, are they soliciting you to call? Then obviously, your spider senses are good, by the way. The fact that you realized you were being transferred and your antenna went up, that's a good sign. But yeah, when you start getting into spoofing and trying to hijack and redirect, it can be done. But again, if you initiated it, it's less likely that was the case.
Okay.
But you can always, if you feel real funny about it, you can always go to AT&T. Just go to the closest store and say, hey, look, I did this the other day, and they should be able to give you some answers.
Okay. Okay. I have another one if nobody else does.
Sure.
With Wi-Fi, when you're on the Wi-Fi, are they only able to see what you're transmitting, or are they able to get in and possibly see what else is on your computer, or is it strictly just kind of what you're transmitting while you're on the free Wi-Fi?
It depends.
She's laughing at all my questions.
Well, they're good questions, but we're laughing because the answers can be very complex. It
okay.
depends.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're just out there sniffing traffic, then that's pretty much all they can do. If they've found a way to place something on your system to where they, even when you get off, they can stay on.
So that's possible.
Possible, yes. Does that mean it's happening? Again, it comes back to, I can do that. I can spend an hour figuring out how to do that, or I can go to the guy next to you who is banking from Starbucks.
Right.
Which one is a higher return on investment?
So don't bank from Starbucks.
Don't bank from Starbucks or McDonald's or anybody else with open Wi-Fi.
Okay.
But could you do it? Yes. Is it really that common? Not in my experience. It happens, but just not that often.
Okay.
She's made a comment a couple times about this, and we all know the analogy. I don't have to run faster than the bear. I just have to run faster than you, and it really is applicable in this environment because, like has been mentioned, low-hanging fruit. Why do I want to spend a lot of time trying to crack your system when she's transmitting everything in the clear and hasn't patched in the last 3 years?
So another hint is patch. Update your software.
Yes.
On the social engineering that you mentioned, can that be commandeered to look like it's from a friend? Because you get these things of, don't stop this chain email and stuff like that. Is that probably?
So it might be from your friend. And it may be the last 10 people were from friends of friends. But that doesn't mean somebody didn't start it with malicious intent. And now you've answered those questions and posted them online. So it doesn't matter that your friend was the one who sent it to you. What matters is somebody can see those answers.
I would add to that be careful of major events. Okay, so you've got the Ebola scare here. If you take tsunami, Japan, earthquake, Haiti, whatever, when major events like that occur, Super Bowl, there are bad players out there who will buy those domain names. So it'll be like tsunamirelief.com or help the tsunami victims, that kind of. So it kind of tugs at your heartstrings to do the right thing. So you got to be very careful there because they will go out and buy those things. And I had another point and I just forgot it.
The Ebola one hit today, though. We started seeing Ebola spam and fake domains today.
Okay. In my replacements of the credit cards that they send me, the last one came with a chip on it. Is it more secure than the non-chip credit cards?
It is.
they replace them because of all
Yeah, it is more secure. It's going to do, it's really going to help card present fraud, where they had to have the card to conduct the fraud. It's going to help with card not present fraud, or vice versa. It's going to stop the card not present fraud for the most part, but the card present fraud can still occur. So yes, it's definitely more secure than what we have. That's why they're going to it. That's why it's mandated that they go to it.
Yeah.
My concern on that whole thing is, and only because I was in the industry or working with that industry when it was in its infancy, that the whole EMV chip, integrated circuit card, I don't know how long it's going to be around, because everyone's going to mobile payments. It's almost a stopgap to a degree until we can get this whole mobile payment going. We have to secure our credit cards first, so we're going to do this. Europeans have been doing it a long time, but they had to do it because their telecommunications infrastructure wouldn't support credit card payments like ours would, with a pretty good feeling of that's a good card as soon as you swipe it. They didn't have that, so rather than revamp their entire telecom system, they went to the smart cards. So we didn't really need to do it. That's why we didn't. But now we're converging back in the same spot, which is on mobile. So, and where that goes, it remains to be seen.
Following up on the credit card question, after the Target breach, I did get one of the ones of the chip in also, but there's only just a very few companies that are using that. So if you happen to go to that store, you have to put it in the bottom part, put your code in, which seems to be really, really secure. But you go anywhere else and you run it just like a regular credit card. So it seems to me that it can be good, but the people that are probably going to use it know which ones use it and which ones don't have the readers. But you can maybe comment on that. But my other question I really wanted to ask was, if you sell a cell phone and you go back and you restore it to default, which is supposedly like it was when it was sold, is it secured all, or can they go back in and find all the information that you had on that chip before?
Okay, so on your first point, the issue is infrastructure cost, re-outfitting all the POS terminals and all the terminals with chip-based technology. So it's going to cost some money, and it's going to take some time to integrate that everywhere. So that's why you're seeing it in some places and not others. As far as the factory reset on the phone, if you do that, is your data off of there from a layman's standpoint on what most people have? Yes. Are there tools out there that could recover some of your data? Yes. It's a safe wipe, I'll say that. It's a safe wipe for if you sell it to your neighbor, you're fine. They're not going to be able to recover anything off that phone. If you sold it out somewhere else and you have no idea who's going to get it, potentially with the proper tools, could they get some of your data off of there? Yes. And we could talk afterwards a little more in depth on that if you'd like.
I'd say think about it like a book. Think of your cell phone as a book. What they're doing when they do those safe wipes is, in effect, taking out the index and the appendices. They're taking out a lot of that data. The letters in the book still exist, they still make sense. So if you know how to open to a particular page and you understand what's going on before that page and behind that page, you can still figure out that page. So think about it that way. Yeah, it helps. It's certainly better than nothing.
It's pretty high end. I mean, I run our digital forensics lab here, and none of the commercially available tools, and we have several, will be able to read the data once you've done a factory reset. But that's not to say there are non-commercially available tools, hacker tools and stuff that can, if that answers your question.
I have two quick questions. The first one, is there a better or best antivirus to use on your computer, antivirus program?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to I don't think we can actually recommend particular software, I'm afraid. There are definitely antivirus programs that are good. I think you probably know a lot of the names out there: Symantec, McAfee, Kaspersky. There are quite a few programs. If you go into a store, the programs on the shelf are probably good programs. Some little better than others, but there's not much of a difference. I will warn you, though, fake antivirus is very common on the internet. So we all want something for free. I mean, why pay $50 if you can download the free version? Fake antivirus, though, is incredibly common. And chances are, if you're downloading fake antivirus, you're thinking you're downloading real antivirus off the internet, but it's setting you up for scams and frauds. So be really careful. I would say if you're not sure, buy it from a store.
Okay, my second question is on those sites you have up there. Is they say HTTP, but they don't have the S. Does it only show up when it's on the computer, the S?
Oh, no, these websites are not secure. So these websites are not asking you for transmitting your data. So when we talk about a secure website where we want to see the S, it's where you're logging in, where you're giving them information, be it login data or something that you're sending to them. These websites are just websites where you're going to go and look at information and they won't know much about you.
I just wanted to make one final comment on the previous one about the antivirus. As was mentioned, pick your favorite commercially available antivirus company, but one of the things that you need to do is to make sure that you do have it updating the signatures on a regular basis, because new viruses, new worms, new problems, pieces of malware come out all the time, and if yours hasn't been updated in 3 months, chances are something new is out there, and so make sure that you have it set so it is automatically doing that on a regular basis.
On average, it's about 1 million new pieces of malware a day.
I just have a couple of questions. In order to try and protect from hacking or things going on, I stopped using any outside ATMs, and I only use the ATM that's inside the bank. Would you say that that is safer? I mean, it's inside the bank with a direct view by everybody in the bank. I couldn't see that it would be that easy. I suppose somebody could, but it seems like
No, I would agree with that. I mean, if it's inside there, which means after hours it's closed, you can't even access it after hours, you're talking about kind of inside the doors.
Right, it's inside. You have to use your...
But you can still get in there after hours?
Only with your debit card.
Probably,
Yeah,
again, the criminals are going to look for the low-hanging fruit. So are they going to try and do that when they know there's cameras in there or whatever? Probably not. So yeah, I mean, it's, again, you are taking steps that are going to reduce the likelihood of you being a victim, and that's smart to do.
And just a quick second question. Is it a better idea to turn off your computer when you're not using it?
Yes. So the reason for that, to explain a little bit, is if you're not using your computer but your computer is still on, have you turned off your router? Is it still connecting out to the internet? However you're connecting, is it still able to get on the internet? If it is, that means that somebody can get to it from the internet. If your computer is turned off, then they can't get to it. They can't remotely turn on your computer, at least not yet.
Question over here.
I have a kind of a hypothetical question that maybe there's a simple answer. I don't know. I've worked with multiple kinds of computers over the years, and one of them being a mainframe. Also now I work with PC-based as well. The mainframe, if you try 3 passwords and you don't get it, you're locked out. And I have to jump through some hoops to get my ID open. That's not true with any PC software that I'm aware of. Is there some simple reason why that's true?
It's a setting. So it's truly just a setting. If you want to enable it on a PC or your company wants to enable it, they could. And you could set it for 1 mistry, 3 mistries, 10 mistries. It's just a setting like everything else.
And it's a productivity issue too. So if you have it set so it locks out after 3 times, what happens then? Do you have to call someone to have it reset? Do you have to wait 10 minutes or whatever? Well, if you've got an employee who accidentally fat-fingered something and went 3 times, now that person's not productive for however long it takes to go ahead and call up the person or whatever. So, yeah, it's...
Thank you.
I get a lot of spam emails from people who would like to come and meet me, blah, blah, blah. When I open up the HTML header, the IP address is always the same, so I can never block these people. If these people were ever smart enough to pretend to be LinkedIn or Facebook, I would be sorely tempted to click on View Notifications. Can the servers be updated to detect and deny these kind of phishing emails?
So I'm assuming you're using commercial servers, commercial webmail, Gmail, Hotmail,
Yahoo.
something like this. Yahoo. Okay, they do. Depending on your settings. Now with Yahoo, I believe you have the option of turning on those filters or not. And I can tell you, they use LinkedIn. I got 3 LinkedIn requests today. I'm not a member of LinkedIn. You won't find me on there, so I know those are phishing emails. They're spam. So it's a setting for Yahoo that you can enable, and that will reduce some of it. There's only so much we can do. Every time we come up with a way to prevent the spam from getting through, they figure out a way around it. You might remember a couple years ago that the Viagra messages were notorious for this one. It didn't spell out Viagra. It used some numbers in there and put some spacing between the letters. Well, after a little bit, the companies figured out that's what they were doing, and so they started blocking those. So we don't see that anymore. For a while, they used pictures. So instead of giving you the actual word text, they would send you a picture of the text, because there was no way to filter that that picture was the spam email. They figured out a way around that. So it's a constant game of one-upmanship. We try our best. We figure out a way to block it. The guys who are sending the spam and the phishing emails figure out a way around it. And it's just a constant game.
Let's take one more question.
I'm familiar with the antivirus software for computers. My question is, does antivirus exist for mobile phones? And if it does it work basically the same way?
Short answer is yes and yes. Pretty much all the companies that you're talking about, and she's mentioned before, virtually all those and others have a mobile version, and it essentially does the same thing. So pick, choose the one you like.
Larry, if we can, Mayor Welton would like to ask a final question here.
Okay.
Dr. White, you showed the pictures of the Post-it notes on the computers at work. I'd like for you to address how important it is that everyone hide their passwords when they're at home.
Okay, yeah. There you go. Hide your passwords when you're at home. The issue, we're going to get into this long debate about passwords and complexity here. I can tell we're going to that real quick here. The problem that we face out there, and the ones that we saw up there, and the ones my passwords are for July is July. There's no excuse for things like that to get written down. It's just too easy to remember why you're writing it down. Don't write it down. Whether you're at home, whether you're at work, just don't write it down. Back in the, you're going to get me started in the good old days in history on passwords and something here. Back when we started making passwords a little bit more complex, I was in the DoD at that time, and the DoD said, okay, we're going to have we're going to have the machines randomly generate these passwords so that people quit picking bad passwords. And what's the first thing that everybody did? Wrote it down. And so that doesn't help. People will, I used to be on some Tiger teams in the Air Force, and it wasn't difficult gaining access to any computer system we ever attempted to, if I could get physical access. So we have the law enforcement types, break in, so physically break in, get us physical access to the room. Once I'm in the room, I'm going to get inside your computer because I'm going to find someone who have written a password. Back in the old days when you had Rolodexes, you could usually look up under P for password, and you find a list of passwords, or you lift up the blotter, or you can open the top drawer of the desk. If you want to find safe combinations, by the way, in an office, what you do is you start flipping over the pictures, and you'll find someone who will put the picture, so there are these common things that people know about, and bad dudes and dudettes out there know where to look for these things, so just don't do it, resist the temptation to write it down if at all possible. Now, the problem comes in, like as she mentioned, when I have 54 passwords. How the heck am I going to remember all of those? And there's some tools and programs that you can use to store them and safely lock those, so that if I need to get access to them by something, I can look them up.
I'll ask the silly question. Are you the only person in your house? If you write down your password at home, do you never have somebody from the utility company coming in, a repairman, grandkids, kids, parents? If you're writing down passwords at home, there's still people around to take it. You may hopefully trust some of them, but I'm willing to bet sooner or later somebody's going to be in your house that you shouldn't be trusting, and they can see that password. And some of those people are doing that kind of thing. They are looking for passwords. Because like you said, everybody writes them down somewhere at some point in time to help them remember. If you know to look for them, if you know where to look for them, you're in trouble.
And we all think we're real clever, but we all seem to be real clever in the same way. And everybody seems to find the same spots to hide things in.
I think a question came up earlier, it wasn't actually spoken, about this slide and maybe the slide before this, whether we could post it onto our website. We'll look into doing that, and you'll most probably find it under the IT department webpage. So hopefully within the next week or so we'll get this up for you.
And if you haven't grabbed it already, all of this is available also on a handout out front. I don't know if they ran out of them already, but these were all printed so you can take them home with you too.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Jeff, you mentioned something ago, and one of the questions reminded me. We got a phone call at home on our answering machine that the IRS had owed us money, which I thought was suspicious to begin with. I've never gotten that phone call before, and it was on our answering machine. And they would call us back to give us instructions on how we could get our money sent to us. Well, my wife was home later when she actually got the phone call, and being the suspicious person that she was, she tried to keep them on the phone and try to find out what. And they said, well, we will call you back and we'll give you specific instructions as to how we can wire the money to your account. Well, okay, that was a red flag that went up right there. So we knew we weren't going to give them that information. They said, just a minute, I've got an emergency phone call. I will call you back and give you further instructions. About 15 minutes later, they called back and said, I'm sorry, we've got a problem being able to wire the money to your account. Would you go to the CVS store at Bedford Euless and Precinct Line and buy a money card, and we can use that to transfer it to that money card? I thought, that's odd. So they called back a little bit later and said, now if you will give us the digits to those money cards, we will transfer the money. All they wanted were the digits. They weren't going to take any money from us. They were going to take money from CVS. So there are a lot of ways that they're going to try to get to you. If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. So
could I add just 2 bits? I apologize on that one. But I just had in the last like 3 weeks a couple different phone calls where individuals were calling up and return this call because there's pending litigation against you and so on and so forth and things like that. And my sister lives with us because her husband passed away a number of years ago. And my sister's not as tech savvy as a lot of, and she was panicking and she was ready to start calling these numbers and everything. And I said, hey, look, here's what you need to do. If you got something like that and you're suspicious, just do something simple like go Google the phone number that they left you. And I showed her that by going out and doing that, there were just lists of these, these phone numbers and lists of individuals or that had the same people or similar phone numbers and things like that. So you could use some fancy tool like Google to just help you determine when something looks funky.
Thank you. Let's give our presenters a round of applause. And I would like to thank each of you for coming. Hopefully the information that has been shared with you tonight and the resources that have been provided be something that you can take home and take advantage of. And again, thank you very much for coming. Good night.